Hey everyone, CorrectJeans here for Lockpickers United, and today we are going to be picking the Anker Miwa 3800. Now, I'm sure you've gotten a good amount of details on this lock from Captain, so I'm going to be mostly focusing on the picking process. So before we start, I want to go over a couple important things about your choice for picks and how to design your magnetic pick for this. The first is that not all magnets are created equal, and this is something that affected me a bunch when I attempted to pick this lock a while ago. So these magnets on the right are the ones that I had, and the ones on the left are the ones that I ended up getting after I realized these were not good enough. And I'll show you, I have two identical stacks here, and what I'm going to do is move them towards these singular magnets. You can see that this one affects the single magnet from all the way back here, whereas this one needs to move closer. And that's actually enough to make the difference between being able to pick the lock and not being able to pick the lock. These magnets on the right are not able to pick the lock. I had zero luck getting anywhere on this lock without these stronger magnets on the left. Magnetism decays as 1 over r cubed, so this little difference here, that's about 1/3 of a difference in the distance, is actually a pretty big discrepancy in strength. So that's just something I wanted to bring up, so you were aware when you were buying materials to make this. Now, in terms of the pick that I am using, what I have here is a broken pick, and I filed down the shank a little bit so that it can be turned sideways inside the keyway. And I've marked at 4 locations on both sides with Sharpie the positions of where they need to be for the magnets. And in order to do this, all you need to do is hold it up against the key and place the magnet over the magnet on the key, and you can see that it lines up with the key stop. And so that's just going to be where you draw your marks. That's the easiest way to do it. You don't need to take the lock apart. You just sort of hold it over the key and draw marks. All right, so that's it for that. Let's go ahead and get this clamped up and get it picked. All right, now you might be able to see these cords sort of hanging out in the background here, and that's because I have attached my microphone to the lock in order to hopefully give you a better ability to hear what's going on inside. So hopefully you can still hear what I'm saying reasonably well. So just like magnetic locks such as the LZIT or the MCS, this is going to be picked mostly via sound. And before we start the picking process, it's actually a little bit important to streamline by getting some information beforehand. You don't have to do this, but it sort of speeds up the process a little bit. Now, each of the sliders inside of this lock contain 1 or 2 magnets, usually 2, but not all of them have 2. Some only have a magnet on one side. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in through here, and we're going to try to listen for which sliders make sound as we pass by them on the left and right, so we can figure out whether or not we can get away with picking all on one side or whether we need to pick on both sides or a combination. The other information that we'll get is a little bit about what the correct rotations of the pick are for each one. If you pass over a slider with the pick and it makes no sound at all when you're not trying to bind anything, what it means is that your pick is opposite to where it should approximately be when you set it. So you don't need to go through and find where it doesn't make noise before you start, but it's a bit of a helpful thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each of the positions with the magnet rotated up and down and listen for rattling so we know where to pick and a little bit about what's going on. If you do hear rattling when you go over it, it means that you're not 180 degrees away from it. So if you hear rattling with the pick facing up, it means that down is probably not correct. So you don't really need to probe around with down. All right, so here we go, position 1. There's rattling there. Position 2. There's rattling there. There's rattling there. There's very loud rattling there. All right, so all 4 sliders have a magnet on the left, and that magnet is not set in the down position. And actually what we'll do is we'll go ahead and probe it with the down position anyway. So you can hear it there on 1. 2 is silent. That means that more than likely 2 is actually going to set from this position here, but it might require a little extra rotation, and we're still going to play around with it. All right, let's just keep going. 3 is, there's a little bit, but it's mostly silent, which means that's probably going to be almost vertical and 4 has a little bit of jiggling. That generally means that the ones that jiggled when it was upside down are probably going to set with the magnet off to the side a little bit. But you know, it's still something to mess around with. Let's check the right just to be complete with it. So on 1, there is jiggling there, so there's 2 magnets on this slider. Jiggling there, there's 2 magnets on this slider. Nothing on 3. Nothing on 4. Let's flip it over just to make sure. So actually this is opposite of how it should set on 1, because I'm not hearing anything. Same with 2. Still nothing on 3. Still nothing on 4. What you can hear there is probably my pick scraping around, but there was no sort of rattling. So what it seems like is the case is sliders 1 and 2 have 2 magnets, one on both sides, and sliders 3 and 4 only have magnets on the left. So what we're going to do is we're only going to pick on the left side. Now during the picking process, I'm going to use 2 tensioners when I do the magnet part. However, if you have to pick on both the left and the right side, you can still use 2 tensioners, you just have to switch sides. It's not that big of a deal. Alright, so this lock does in fact have 4 dimple pins in it. So first thing we have to do is pick those. That's reasonably fast. They aren't security pins. Although I do know that certain versions of this lock are do have security pins, just not this one. 1 is loose, 2 is loose, 3 is binding. Click on 3, 4 is loose, 1 is binding. Click on 1. A little click on 2, but then now it's loose again. 4 is binding. Click on 4, and I dropped into a little bit of a false set. Feels like we are done with the pins. Alright, so let's move on to the magnets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my second tensioner here and just grab it like this. You don't need 2 tensioners. It just makes the process a little bit easier. Or you can just have a very tight fitting single tensioner. It's sort of personal preference. Right off the back, 1 has gone silent, so I'm going to reduce a little bit. You can hear it. Now it's rattling, so it's done something. 2 is rattling. 3 is silent. So one thing is when you pick this, you don't necessarily have to, try a random rotation, put on tension, and see if it rattles. You can actually wiggle it back and forth, and sometimes you can actually kind of hear the slider click into place. So give it a little wiggle, see if you hear it clunk into place. Maybe it's just springing back, but often it means that that's just the correct location. Four is silent. Oh, do you hear that? There's a nice little click when I rotated it. Now it's actually feeling set. All right, let's go back to 1. It's silent. All right, 4 silent again. Go. I didn't even, test the tension. I just waited for a little click. All right, 1 is still rattling. And as you're noticing, these bind at multiple places. They're not unsetting themselves. They just bind multiple times along the way. 2. All right, now we've fallen into a deeper false set. There we go. Lock is open. There's a little bit of a click out of 2 and then just rotated through. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take my microphone back. There we go. All right, I'll have to rebalance the audio. Okay, the lock is picked. You can see we are in fact picked. So let's relock it and get this guy gutted. So first things first, we have a clip on the back. And I wasn't super good at putting back on last time I gutted it. Where the hell? There we go. Little extra ring there. All right, let's get this guy gutted. So like I mentioned, I'm not going to go super in depth on what's inside here because I trust that Captain did a very good job with that earlier. So let's just get the lock apart so that it is apart. This thing requires a bit of a weird follower size. The Sparrow's follower set does not actually have this size, which is something I've never encountered before. And you have to be a little bit careful about what angle you rotate it to, because there's a lot of angles where it'll catch on the way out. Come on, there we go. Alrighty, we'll get to the top pins in a moment. Okay, so these are just going to be standard. Why am I putting it up there? You should have seen this thing before I cleaned it. I had to literally pry all the pins out of it because it was so gunky in here. Alrighty, those are the key pins. Let's go ahead and get the drivers out real quick because there's nothing particularly exciting about them, so we might as well save the best for last. Whoa, that was explosive. Almost lost the wafer. Yeah. It's been a while since I've got anything on camera. Yeah, there we go. A couple master pins in here, but I mean, this lock's hard to get a hold of, so I wasn't about to get rid of them. All right, let's. Don't worry about it. You know what normal pins look like. They're a bit thinner than normal. These aren't a standard pin size. But other than that, there's nothing particularly interesting about them. They're just slightly dirty brass pins. Okay. Let's get to the good part. There's some springs in here too. I can see if I can't dump them. Cool. Springs. Isn't that exciting? Alright, and now the part that everyone's been waiting for. So we have our 4 magnetic sliders here. You can see that they alternate in directions, and they interact with this little thing, this little fence inside of the lock. Key comes out. You can see that all the sliders spring out because they have those little springs on them. So I'm actually going to, instead of trying to remove them that way, I'm just going to pop this little cover off. You can see that all 4 of them do have their springs. This one got stuck in here. So yeah, we have our 4 sprung sliders. I won't go into any more detail than that. We'll leave it there. So the last thing that I will show you is that I hopefully haven't just lost a spring. I'll find it. Where did that thing go? Oh, there it is. These springs are very annoying to deal with. So the last thing I'll leave you with is something that I also have, which is the fact that Miwa happens to have other locks which have a similar format. So you can see here that this is a magnetic lock. It has a covered key. It's not the same style of key, but it still has 2 magnets on each side. And it has 3 sprung sliders. You can see that a spring just popped out. And actually you can see the little fence inside here that the sliders interact with actually detaches from the core on this one. This is from a cam lock that was used for Sega gaming systems, for arcade machines, basically. Yeah. So, I'll give you a good look up in here. You can even take one of these out. You can see a couple little magnets on there. You can see that it holds my pick in place. It is in fact magnets. Anyway, that's all for the Anker Miwa 3800. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a good one.